Hello everyone, let's dive straight into Power Automate process mining. The formal definition of process mining is an analytical technique that discovers, monitors, and improves real processes by extracting knowledge from event logs available in your information systems. In plain everyday English, it is the X-ray machine for your business. You see, most of the time we think we know how our work gets done, but we are often wrong. We think a task takes 10 minutes, but in reality, it sits on someone's desk for 3 days. Process mining looks at the digital footprints, the event logs, left behind every time someone clicks a button or saves a file, and it draws a map of what is actually happening. Imagine you run a local pizza shop. You think the delay is in the oven, but the X-ray shows that the pizzas are actually sitting on the counter for 20 minutes waiting for a driver. Stay with me here because we are moving from guesswork to evidence. You've probably seen this at the office, where a simple approval takes weeks for no reason. Process mining is how we find out exactly where that time is being wasted. Let's break this down together. We are uncovering the hidden truth of our workflows. So, now that we've mastered the idea that process mining is our digital X-ray, you might be wondering what ingredients we need to feed into this machine to get that secret map. Well, that brings us right into our next step, which is event logs and data requirements. This brings us to event logs and attributes. The technical documentation describes an event log as a dataset that must contain at least 3 specific attributes: a case ID to identify the specific instance, an activity name to describe the step taken, and a timestamp to show when it happened. To speak naturally, it is the digital receipt. Every time a piece of work moves, it leaves a receipt. Imagine a dummy example of an insurance claim. The case ID is the claim number, like claim-999. The activity is manager approved, and the timestamp is April 28th at 2 p.m. If you have these 3 things, the process mining tool can string them together like pearls on a necklace to show the full journey of that claim. You've probably noticed at the office how every email and every database entry has a date and time on it. Those are the breadcrumbs we use to build our map. Let's break this down together. We are collecting the who, what, and when of our process. So now that we've mastered how to gather our digital breadcrumbs, you might be wondering how we turn that pile of data into a visual picture that actually makes sense to our eyes. Well, that brings us right into our next step, which is the process map and variant analysis. Now we need to talk about the process map. The formal definition says a process map is a visual representation of the end-to-end process flow generated automatically from your data, showing the happy path as well as all the variants or deviations that occur in the real world. In simple everyday English, it's the GPS for your workflow. It shows you the main highway where everything goes right, but it also shows all the confusing side streets and U-turns that your employees are taking. Think of a dummy example. You are looking at how your company hires new people. The map shows that 80% of the time it's a straight line. But then you see a variant where 20% of the applications are going backward from the interview stage to the application stage 3 times. Stay with me here because those variants are where the hidden costs are buried. You've probably seen this when you try to follow a simple instruction but end up having to call 3 different people just to get a signature. The process map turns that frustration into a visible line. Let's break this down together. We are seeing the real road for the first time. So, now that we've mastered how to see the different paths our work takes, you might be wondering how we find the traffic jams where everything slows down to a crawl. Well, that brings us right into our next step, which is identifying bottlenecks and rework. This brings us to bottlenecks and rework. The technical documentation defines a bottleneck as a point in the process where the flow of data or tasks is significantly restricted, leading to increased lead time, while rework refers to activities that are repeated unnecessarily within a single case. In plain language, it is the clogged pipe. If you have 100 tasks entering a department but only 2 exiting per day, you have found your clog. Imagine a dummy example. You are analyzing customer support tickets. You notice that every ticket stays in the technical review bucket for an average of 48 hours, while every other step takes only 5 minutes. That is your bottleneck. You also see rework, where a ticket is sent back to the customer for more info 4 different times. You have probably noticed at the office how one specific person or department always seems to be the holdup. Process mining proves it with data so you can fix it. Let's break this down together. We are finding the leaks in our business engine. So now that we've mastered how to find the traffic jams and the repeated work, you might be wondering how we can use this information to actually predict what will happen in the future and how much money we could save. Well, that brings us right into our next step, which is simulation and root cause analysis. Let's dive into root cause analysis. The formal definition describes the use of AI-driven insights to correlate process delays with specific attributes, like a certain vendor, location, or time of year, to determine why a process is underperforming. To put it very simply, it is finding the why behind the what. It's not enough to know there is a traffic jam. We want to know if it's because of a rainy day or a broken bridge. Imagine a dummy example. You see that refunds are taking too long. The AI looks at the data and tells you, hey, every time the refund is over $500 and happens on a Friday, it takes 10 days longer. Suddenly, you realize that the only person who can approve big refunds leaves early on Fridays. Stay with me here, because this is the intelligent part of the application. It tells you exactly where to point your finger. You've probably noticed at the office how people love to guess why things are slow. Root cause analysis gives you the microscope to see the truth. Let's break this down together. We are becoming business detectives. So now that we have mastered how to find the reason for our problems, you might be wondering how we can take all this knowledge and turn it into automatic improvements that fix the process for us. Well, that brings us right into our next step, which is automating improvements with Power Automate. Finally, we reach process optimization and automation. This technical area focuses on using the insights gained from mining to design new Power Automate flows that bypass bottlenecks, automate repetitive rework, and keep the process on the happy path as much as possible. In our relaxed classroom tone, it simply means the digital fix. Once the X-ray shows the clog, we use automation to clear the pipe. As a trainer with over 25 years of experience, I can tell you that this is the golden circle of intelligent apps. You find the problem with data and you fix it with a flow. Imagine a dummy example. You found that vendor approval was slow because of a missing signature. You build a Power Automate flow that nudges the manager every 2 hours until they sign, or automatically approves it if the vendor is already on your gold list. Let's break this down together. As builders, we are the architects of continuous improvement. We've looked at the business X-ray, the digital receipts, the GPS for our workflow, finding the clogged pipes, becoming business detectives, and finally using the digital fix. We've mastered analyzing process inefficiencies. You now know how to make any business run like a well-oiled machine. Well, that brings us right into our next chapter.